Give me two. Nice, we're in sync. Okay, so this is us. This is the
This is us.
This is us.
this is the BitBoys. This is the first episode of the BitBoys. This is a episodic show where we put out a show weekly. I guess you call it a podcast as well, although it's not really on a podcast app. It's really just on YouTube. But we're going to be talking about various things that we think are interesting, like sports and video games and stuff. And you may be asking, like, I've heard millions and billions of people talk about, sports and video games. What makes you guys so different? And the answer is we're not. But
We're funny, though.
we are people, but we're really funny. At least we think. But we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. I think I can speak for all of us when I say that we don't expect to get like huge or anything, but this is just something fun that we are doing for us and for our friends. So, anyway, we have a bunch of topics that we want to talk about. The first one is Boris Johnson canceling Christmas. You guys,
Canceled.
I
you
have
guys know
no
who
idea
Boris
what this
Johnson
is.
Yeah, I don't know. I just saw you mention this in the group chat, and you're like, "We're talking about this," and then I'm going in empty.
How do you not know who Boris Johnson is? Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom or England.
So I knew the name Boris Johnson, but if you were to put a gun to my head and say who is Boris Johnson, I would have been dead.
Well, good old Bojo has canceled Christmas.
What
He
does
said,
that mean?
well,
Wait, what does that mean?
it means he's literally the Grinch. That's what it means.
Okay.
He is personified and reincarnated as the Grinch. But no, England has had like a pretty bad resurgence of coronavirus cases. And so what Boris has done is he said, please don't get together for Christmas at all. Actually, in fact, I think he didn't even say please. I think he said don't. Boris Johnson's he's a very brazen person who will literally say anything on his mind. He's a lot like Trump in that way, but Boris Johnson's way more funny than Donald Trump is. But let me see. I got the article here. He says, we cannot continue with Christmas as planned. In England, those living in Tier 4 areas should not mix with anyone outside their own household at Christmas. So he, and literally, you can look at the language there and you can say, okay, he's talking about people in England. But really, he's talking, if you look at the deeper language, this is a metaphor for all of the universe. He says, we can no longer have Christmas in the universe. It's not going to work out. People are going to get sick and die.
Did they have Thanksgiving? Did he cancel that too, or just Christmas?
In England?
Yeah.
They don't have that in England.
That would make sense.
That's an American holiday.
Oh, yeah.
What about
I mean, the Tea
Columbus
Party.
Day?
Yeah.
The tea.
Yeah, the same thing.
I'm sure they do have tea parties in England.
Yeah.
But they don't observe Thanksgiving.
They do. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter because it'd be through a phone, so
I
you're
feel
good.
so sad for those British people that don't know how to give thanks. How are they ever going to be thankful for the turkeys that they eat?
Yeah, I guess turkey's kind of. I don't really like turkey as a general rule. Turkey's not like a very good bird meat to me. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Okay, what's the tier list of bird meat then?
So it's got to be
Chicken's gotta be number one, right?
Well, the thing about chicken is that it depends on how it's made, because chicken could be extremely dry, right? Like, and there's no like if chicken is dry, it's horrible and hard to eat. But places like Chick-fil-A that pretty much have, well, I know Chandler doesn't really think the same way that we do, whether that most common sensical people do. But Chick-fil-A typically has good meat. They use typically white meat that isn't very dry at all. Thus it has flavor. But if you cook chicken in like a crock pot or something, it always is really dry, and I always hate eating chicken out of a crock pot. But I still eat it because it's good. But I think depending on the type of chicken is probably S tier. And then turkey's probably somewhere in C if I had to guess. But again, you could I know people who eat like Cajun turkey for Thanksgiving, and it tastes really, really good. And I'd put that in like B tier.
That's because the seasoning, not because of the meat, though.
Yeah. So my uncle actually made us Cajun turkey for Thanksgiving, and it was really good. But I'll say this: bird like outside of chicken, the rest of the bird meats like turkey, and I, whatever else. What other birds are there?
Ducks. People
Quail,
eat
duck.
ducks.
Yeah, but like the rest of them are just meh. I guess I've had quail one time and that was pretty good, but I mean, I'm not gonna go out and order quail on like a weekly basis like I would chicken.
Uh,
Oh.
what about the flying fish? Those are the birds of the sea. What about their meat?
I can honestly say I've never had a flying fish. Um,
Why not? They're really good. I
I
think
don't know.
maybe.
Do they even serve flying fish like as a meal?
Do they serve?
Is that a thing you can buy? Or
You
are
go
they
to
like
Papados and
endangered?
they serve you flying fish on a gold platter.
All right, well, I guess I gotta try that next time.
Well, yeah, okay, so that's a as you can tell, a very incomplete list of the turkey or the
We named 3 birds.
we named 3 birds. There's a, well,
or 4.
in defense, there's only a couple kinds of birds, I guess. Well, actually, I'm probably wrong about that. Don't
There's a
come
lot. I don't think you eat most of them though. I
for
was
no.
thinking. I think chicken is only like the only fast food bird. You don't eat any of them like at a fast food restaurant, do
That's
you?
actually a good
Well,
point.
I mean, you can eat like a turkey sandwich at Subway.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. But yeah.
I guess chicken goes more in the fowl category than it does a bird because chickens don't like take flight, right? They're
Right.
not like geese or pigeons.
They kind of just hover, you know.
Yeah, they hover and they glide down off of rooftops. If I've learned anything from Legend of Zelda, it's that you can ride a chicken from the rooftop to the ground
Right.
and not die. So.
I just Googled edible birds, and one of the ones that came up was swans. Did you guys know
What?
that swans were edible?
I would yeah. No.
I would assume that all birds are like probably a whooping crane is edible as well, but I don't know if you'd eat
Do
one.
people eat ostriches? That's like just a big
Probably.
chicken.
Probably the Aborigines do, yeah.
Yeah.
And then in Australia. Okay, so we went from Boris Johnson all the way to birds.
Yeah.
That's great.
UK Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I honestly want to bring this up to you guys. Have you guys been aware of the state of YouTube recently?
So I would say I have like a bird's eye view of it. It's not like I'm like, in the trenches. I understand the algorithm of YouTube and all that stuff.
I always hear it's bad, and then like that goes away for like 6 months, and then some article comes out why it's the worst like platform on the planet. So I don't really know. So I just kind of seems like it's always bad, but
Well, I think for the last few years it's been bad. I think as a lot of people have found out, YouTube favors like long form videos that required no effort, like reaction videos and stuff like that.
like what we're doing right now.
Kind of. This might be slightly more creative than that though. Than like the Logan Pauls, the Jake Pauls of the universe. But basically, a guy named Video Game Donkey or Jason has kind of exposed YouTube. Like he's gone kind of on a tirade, but in like a very like what is it? Kind of in like a pacifistic way, where he's not like specifically calling out YouTube, but he's like making these like videos that are satirically mocking the state of YouTube right now, and they're actually really funny and good. Um, he used to make a bunch of videos, or not used to make. I guess he still will, but he's known for making like these video essays about certain video games that he plays. Like a lot of them are like Dark Souls and things like that. So very very gamery kind of games. And he's a really funny guy. But he's decided that he's going to take a jab at YouTube, kind of. And so for a week or two now, he's been posting these videos that are literally just him mocking people who have really terrible and not creative content on YouTube. And he got some results back from like an email or something that YouTube sent him. and they're like, "Congratulations, good job on your hard work. All your views are up by 4,000% or something like that." And so in trying to satirically destroy YouTube, he's found out that this is what YouTube
So
has
is
wanted
this
him to
like
do all along.
in spite of a like specific reason, or did he just like randomly start doing that?
Well, I think people like VG Donkey who are like uh, YouTube OGs kind of are pretty dissatisfied with the way that
Mm-hmm.
YouTube has turned to like when YouTube like before 2013, uh, YouTube was a lot of like YouTube was kind of newgroundsy in the way that people would go there to like release their animations and stuff like that, and like all their that was like a big creative outlet
Right.
for them, and for
Yeah,
a lot of people, that's how they
and
made
they'd
their
make
living.
like RuneScape PvP montages and stuff. That was like the whole of YouTube.
Yeah, back in the Dino days when they would do RuneScape
I'm
compilations.
serious, dude, and it would be over like a effervescence song or something. Like it'd
Ooh.
be like, let the bodies hit the floor, let the bodies hit the floor, let the bodies hit the floor, or whatever.
I
Yeah,
like those old videos because there's no like in-game sound either. It's just the music
and it
screaming
was
in your
always
ear the whole time.
and it always has captured with unregistered hypercam in like the top left or whatever.
Yeah.
And they'd be
Oh,
typing
that's
in
great.
game like, "Hi, welcome to my guide on how to how to farm green dragons or whatever."
well, I guess that kind of defeats the purpose of what I was saying. but but it's just kind of like a he's just been kind of doing like a satirical kind of jab, which has been cool to see it, and YouTube has kind of been on kind of a down
I
spiral.
think it's cool that they have to, or like they don't have to, but like the email he got about like him doing better, like
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny, just because.
that's just an automated email like that wasn't
Right,
something that someone sent him
right.
on purpose, but that's just like a I don't know, like a progress thing that I guess big creators get from YouTube or something like that.
Do
I
you think
guess.
maybe his analytics going up could be like a direct result of just him posting more videos and then like
It
having less
absolutely
people watch
it's a
those
part of the
videos?
algorithm thing. The YouTube algorithm like essentially dictates like the more that you post, the more views you'll or not the more views you'll get, but the more traffic you'll get to your channel and the
Yeah.
more interactions you'll get.
Well, my like
Um,
the just like the analytical thinking of it, like if I have like a baseline, say 600,000 people watching my videos, like no matter what I post, there's gonna be 600,000 watching these videos. But if I post a really good video, I'm gonna have upwards of 5 million. Say I post like 500 garbage videos and get those baseline 600,000 views instead of posting like two really good videos and getting 10 million views total. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with like the I don't know how much AdSense people get from specific specific views. I guess it depends on who the advertiser is, but um, I think you earn more money by posting more uh, videos and with like the pre-roll ads on.
Like
I
the
heard that
mid rolls and
information.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard that stuff that has to do with like tutorials and information is like easier to like throw ads onto, so those videos typically do better if you have a bigger following. But I mean,
Yeah, that and Big Baby Toy unboxing. Yeah, those get like 400 million.
Or like back, I don't know if you guys even remember these, but back in like the OG H3 days, whenever they would be like dissecting of gummy jelly things. You guys remember
oh
those?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What in the
Yeah,
world was that? Like I feel like the content that you post dictates a lot of
yeah,
how much AdSense you can make or whatever. So like say I'm posting, like very risque content where I'm like, I don't know, insulting everyone on YouTube or something like that. Like that's gonna get less AdSense.
yeah.
Like Leafy.
YouTube is a very trendy platform. Like I think probably one of the best examples of that is like a year or two ago, or probably 2 or 3 years ago, was the 1,000 degree hot knife
Oh
challenge.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
They would take 1,000 degree and like put it through a bar of soap or like put it through a styrofoam cup or something, and they would get tens of millions of views each video. Yeah,
It's always interesting to see these cycles of like what's popular on YouTube and then like how much people can just throw that garbage content out at the exact same thing over and over and over and over again, and it still draws like all these like little 8-year-old kids that
Yeah.
just discovered YouTube to like watch over and over again.
It's so lame, honestly. Like I think I don't really know how to put this, but I think trends are dumb.
Yeah, I mean,
just in general.
but
I
to be fair, like a lot of the internet is just trends. Like you watch like the
yeah,
stuff on Twitch right now and how popular like unboxing Pokemon cards are. I guarantee you 90% of those
Yeah.
people that are unboxing Pokemon cards have never purchased a Pokemon card before in their life until it got popular. You know what I mean? Like cuz that's what drives the
yeah,
viewership.
yeah. I just think from my perspective, like a lot of the people that I follow, like Oni NG and Psychic Pebbles, like those guys, they are really dissatisfied with the way that YouTube is because specifically these trends that have come about like have really stunted like the creative growth of certain people and certain people uh, are who are actual like professional animators. Like I'm not talking about like they work on a TV show or something like that, but I'm talking about like people who make like do like commissions off of their animation or for their artwork or whatever.
Mhm.
Their videos essentially get suppressed because like there's nothing about them that YouTube wants to market to anybody.
Well, also
And I think that that stuff is like the ultimate like creative. It's the ultimate creativity to put on onto YouTube, and I think that's what I like more.
well, yeah, and I mean it goes back to the fact that how Video Game Donkey could just spam a bunch of average to below average videos on his web like his YouTube channel when then it would take someone, maybe 6 months to make a really really high quality video and that
Yeah,
may not drive as much traffic to their channel and so those videos don't get pushed by the YouTube algorithm. Which is interesting because there's some channels that I've watched that will only post a video maybe once every 6 months, but they're always very, very high quality videos. And for some reason, those still will get pushed to me. But then there's other channels that find it really hard to get pushed by the algorithm because of the lack of, a schedule, like a schedule of uploads or whatever.
yeah, yeah. That's part of the thing. That I guess that's part of the daily uploads kind of thing too.
Well, it's just it's confusing. Like the YouTube algorithm's such a like it's a mystery. Like why they choose specific channels to like force feed into my recommendations.
Yeah,
Like I don't want to watch some like top 10 scary anime endings or something stupid like I don't care about that. Like
Stupid
I
Watch
watch
Mojo videos.
like I'll have one like random anime video pop up that I'll watch and then the next 500 recommendations are like these garbage like cookie cutter YouTube videos of like top 5 Goku moments or something stupid like that. Like I don't care about that stuff. You know what I mean?
I would watch that though. But do you guys know that guy Dream that plays Minecraft? He's like a big Minecraft YouTuber.
I don't.
Okay, well
Familiar.
that guy's come out of like literally nowhere, and he just like got like 10 million YouTube subscribers overnight from his like he's got this Minecraft series where it's like Minecraft Manhunt or whatever, where it's him. He's like a professional Minecrafter kind of. He does like speed runs or whatever.
Mhm.
But he does like he has this series where like it's him versus like three other people, and they're all trying to kill him, but he's trying to beat the Ender Dragon and win the game. And they're actually really entertaining. Like nothing against like Dream or whatever, but like he's just shot out of nowhere, and nobody really knows why. Like he's just gained so many subscribers over the past I think like 6 months. It's just like insane. It's like a like extremely meteoric rise. I don't think anybody's ever seen before. But
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's just so strange. Why, like
yeah,
who's behind the curtain pulling the strings, making like, hey, this channel's gonna do really good, or this channel's gonna not do good, and it's like
it's
such
again,
subjective criteria for these channels to like explode overnight. And a lot of times, there's a lot of them that explode that have really really good content, but I would say the vast majority of them that it just explode overnight is just very repetitive, meh, like
yeah.
like the Dobre brothers or whatever. Like, hey mom,
Oh, those
tell me
guys suck. I hate
pick
them.
5 things for me to buy from Walmart or something. Like, who would watch this? Like, why is there any like human being with a functioning brain wanting to spend 2.5 hours watching Dobre brother videos? You know?
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think we probably exhausted the. I think that we've solved the ins and outs of the YouTube algorithm. Actually, I
We
I, I
fixed
think
it,
I
I
think we
think.
could figure out what to and what not. To. By by the way, it's cool that on our first episode we're bashing YouTube because this is going on
Yeah,
YouTube
YouTube, please
and
don't
nowhere else.
suppress our channel because of
Our
the
content.
hateful and spiteful things we feel about you. But speaking of outrage, let's move into my favorite to maybe second favorite topic of today's episode, which is what happened. What is it? It's 2:32 on a Sunday. It
Yeah.
has happened 3 hours ago. Well, 3.5 hours ago or so. And my college football actually let's do a little exercise before I even jump into how
Okay,
I
okay.
feel on the topic. Let's do an exercise between y'all because I mean, Liam, you watch college football. You like as like a more of a passive viewer. You're not like someone that watches a whole lot of games. You mainly watch Auburn. That's about it.
Yeah.
And then Ethan, do you watch college football at all, or do you just
Zero.
yeah, okay. So this is
Zero.
perfect. This is perfect. This is
Okay.
from two very unbiased sources who have very little understanding on the topic and who may not be able to decipher who these teams are that I'm about to give you based on just name alone. Okay, so let's do a little topic. Team A um started the season and they played the entirety of their season and were 10-0. They were 10-0. They have a marquee win over at the time was the number 1 team in college football, but put a little asterisk by that because the number 1 team in college football at that time did not have their starting quarterback. He was out due to COVID, and also they were missing a handful of starters from their defense too. So they were playing at probably half strength.
Okay.
Okay, and so they're undefeated. Awesome. They're one of the top teams in college football. They go into the championship game, and the same team that they had beaten earlier in the year, that was ranked number 1, that you could have put a
Mhm.
little asterisk beside, absolutely throttles them. The game was 34-3 at early in the fourth quarter. It was an absolute demolishing. Like they absolutely
Yeah.
got ran out of the field. So there's Team A. Team B it loses to the number 2 at the time, number 2 ranked team in the nation in the second week of the season. And then they win every single game after that, and including in one of those wins is a win over a top 4 ranked team who eventually got to their conference title. And they win the rest of their games all the way up until the selection. And the team that they lost to in the second week is now currently the number 1 ranked team. So there's that. They have a top 5 win, and they have 1 loss, and that 1 loss is to the best team in college football by the committee standards. But to add to that little bit, the 1 loss was by a fairly decent margin. It was by 28 points. But it was also in the second week. So you could make the assumption that maybe they've gotten better, maybe they haven't. Who knows? But anyway, they are 1 loss, but they have 8 wins. 8 wins over teams, all fairly good teams. One of them being a top 5 team. And
Probably
then
8 wins too many because they actually suck.
and then Team C. Okay, Team C is undefeated. They have no losses, but they've also only played 6 games. They've only played before this weekend. They had played 5 games, and then their conference actually changed the rules to allow them to play in the conference title with only having 5 games played. They have 2 wins. They have 2 top 15 wins, and one of them came this weekend. And the team that they beat was ranked number 14, and they beat them by 12 points. But the game was fairly competitive. It was a little more competitive than 12 points, but this specific team pulled away in the second half. So they beat this 15th ranked team fairly decently, but keep in mind they also have only played 6 games. And so for the last 2 spots in the college football playoff, who of those A, B, or C are you putting in?
I would put in. You're talking about Texas A&M. I would put in Texas A&M over Notre Dame, which is the team that got beat by that beat Clemson without their quarterback, but then later in the year got killed by Clemson with their quarterback.
Okay, Ethan, what about you? Who would you put in this specific situation?
I would definitely not put C. That just seems
The 6-win team?
yeah, that one. I don't see how that's remotely fair. at all.
So you'd put A and B.
Yes.
Okay, and then to pull the curtain off of this, so to pull back the curtain to see who these teams are, which Liam already figured it out, but Team A is Notre Dame, who is now ranked number 4, got in. And they got absolutely manhandled and throttled by Clemson, the team that they had beaten earlier in the season. That was their marquee win. A&M is Team B. They lost to Alabama in the second week of the season by 28 points. But keep in mind, Alabama at this time also had Jalen Waddle, who's now out for the season, who's one of their better offensive players, and he's going to end up being a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So, A&M did lose to fairly decently to Alabama, but they also have a win over number 4 ranked Florida, who played in the SEC championship game and only lost to the number 1 ranked Alabama team by 3 points.
Like 6 points.
Yeah, 6
3
points.
points?
It was it was single digits, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a fairly close game.
Right.
And then the last is Ohio State, who has only played 6 games, and they have wins over the mighty number 9 ranked at the time Indiana, who is now I think now is in like
45.
No, like they're like 12 or something, I want to say, maybe less, I don't know. Let's look. What's their ranking? They are ranked 11. And then they have a win over Northwestern, as well, the mighty Northwestern.
Nice.
This storied program of Northwestern. And so anyway, the committee decided that Notre Dame and Ohio State, the 2 resumes that ironically both of y'all chose to not include, were the 2 that they included. And my beloved Texas A&M Aggies were left out and put at number 5 because of a loss back in early October against the number 1 team in the nation. So, any thoughts? Any comments on that?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts there. I don't know if I can excuse Ohio State, but I will say for Notre Dame, they're just trying to win it for the Gipper, man. I mean, come on, that's a storied franchise. They need it more than A&M to keep up appearances. So I'd say maybe you're getting a little too big for your britches and just get ready for the Peach Bowl or something.
Okay, so I'm kind of like, I don't know anything, but just like as like a business standpoint, wouldn't A&M bring in more money? To watch?
So actually, ironically, it's the opposite because the 2 bigger names are Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that's what a lot of the conspiracy is that they put in those 2 names just because they're big names.
That seems
because college football,
probable.
sports in general, especially like they've lost a ton of money this year, due to the coronavirus. Like they've lost millions and millions and millions of dollars. So I can see why they would want to do that, but at the same time, I think you have to think about the actual guys that are playing, and whether or not their play actually, because Notre Dame's not even in a conference; they just play whoever they want. It's kind of like BYU, right?
Yeah. So they actually played in what was, I mean, they were like an interim ACC conference member this year because they couldn't just schedule games or whatever, and so they played technically in the ACC this year, and they were undefeated, and then they lost in the conference championship in the ACC.
Nice.
But
they deserve it.
But it's good that you pointed out the fact that the integrity of it. There's one part where it's like, okay, we can make the smart business decision, which is what I feel like they did do. And you can have a fair argument that Notre Dame is a better team than A&M. I feel like that's a fair argument. But it's really hard for me to see Ohio State being put in outside of just name alone. You can make the argument that if you play 6 games, but you absolutely manhandle and throttle every single team that you play, and you win every single game by a fair margin, then yeah, I can see maybe an argument. But it's not like they really just absolutely destroyed every team. They beat Indiana by 7. They beat Northwestern by 12, and Justin Fields, who's going to end up being a top 5 draft pick, threw for less than 50% on the night. They did have Trey Sermon run for 300 something yards, but as a whole team, they haven't really been impressive, and they haven't played a very complete game yet. And so it's hard for me to as a college football fan to say, Ohio State is one of the 4 best teams. And that's not saying they couldn't be if they played a full schedule, but it's hard for me to say that right now.
Because you haven't seen anything from them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the teams that they've played, and I'll go down the list. The teams that they've beaten,
I've got the receipts.
the teams that they've beaten, they beat Nebraska, who is I believe is winless. Let me look.
Oh,
Nebraska, no, they're 3-5. Okay, let me give them a little more credit. Penn State, who was winless for a majority of the season, I think they have one win now. No, they're also 3-5. They've won 3 straight games. They were 0-5 at one point. They beat the mighty Rutgers. They canceled their game against Maryland because they were too afraid of the Terrapins. They beat Indiana by 7 points. An Indiana team that, in my opinion, is not very good. And also, when they beat them, Indiana was missing their starting quarterback, and they still only won by 7 points. So, like, it's not like they've came in and they've just ran people off the field. They've had a decent season where they've won every single game, but they haven't had a season to where you can be like, all right, let's extrapolate these 6 games out to 10 or 12 or whatever have you, and say that this team would guaranteed to be undefeated. They haven't played. They didn't play Michigan. They didn't play Illinois. They didn't play Maryland. And then there's plenty of other Big Ten teams that probably would have given them a run for their money if they had actually played the games. Because, I mean, you can say, like, okay, Ohio State's recruiting. They're one of the best teams in college football. But they lost a couple years ago in 2018 by 29 points to Purdue. It's not like this team doesn't have a track record of losing big football games,
Yeah.
So,
But
frustrating.
I think Purdue's also like a perennial, like not good team. So
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they lost to a pretty mediocre Purdue team, a Purdue team that actually went on to get absolutely blown out by an SEC opponent in their bowl game. So it wasn't like this Purdue team was just a slept-on Purdue team that came in and beat Ohio State because they could match them punch for punch. No, this Purdue team came in and blew out Ohio State. Actually, I think it was at Purdue. Ohio State came in and got blown out by Purdue. This is in 2018, so obviously this has nothing to do with this season. But this, gives a track record of how important it is to play all the football games. Florida lost this year to LSU, who is awful this year. They have played much better in these past few weekends, but they're not a good team this year. And Florida, one of the top 10 teams, lost to LSU because they came in and didn't show up and didn't play to their standard. And that's what happens when you play a full schedule, So
didn't LSU beat Florida a couple weeks ago when they were like number 4 or something?
Yeah. So Florida was ranked number 6. Yeah, and LSU did beat them. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
How far did Florida fall from that?
I don't think they fell at all. I don't believe. And if
yeah,
they did fall, they
exactly.
might have fallen one spot. But I think that sets a precedent for how highly the committee thinks of SEC schedule. Like how highly the committee thinks of these SEC teams that may be having years like Auburn, who's still a very, very talented team and gave A&M a pretty good run for their money late into that football game. How highly the committee thinks of these teams is how much that affected the ranking of Florida. And
Yeah.
I think in part it affects the ranking of A&M. A&M probably wouldn't be 5 if it wasn't for them being in the SEC. They would probably be, somewhere in the lower end of the top 10. So
Yeah,
frustrating,
I think.
but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, I cut you off. Go ahead.
it's just frustrating as an A&M fan because A&M has been kind of on the outside looking in. We finally had a really good season. And unfortunately, we're going to have to play in the Orange Bowl against Mac Brown in the North Carolina Tar Heels, which ironically was the one
Texas
team.
coach.
Well, yeah, he was the Texas coach, but ironically, the committee pointed out Notre Dame's win over North Carolina as the deciding factor between A&M and Notre Dame. So if A&M gets to go into Miami and completely destroy the Tar Heels, then that might leave a little sour taste in their mouth and also might open the eyes of the committee, who might not have given A&M enough credit this year, which, who knows? It's to be determined.
Yeah, I think Auburn should have made it in. I think Auburn was probably better at every position than every team in existence.
Well, I mean, so you're being sarcastic, obviously, but
No, I'm not.
Auburn is a good team. Like, they're not a bad team. They're a mediocre team, I would say. They gave Georgia a good game for about a half. They gave A&M a good game for about a half. And they y'all blew out LSU, who
Yeah.
who went on to ironically beat Florida. So you know you have a transitive property win over Florida,
Yeah.
which those mean nothing. But you know this isn't like the SEC is a very competitive league with a lot of parity, and I just don't feel like the Big Ten or frankly the ACC for that matter really match up to those either of those conferences or the
No,
SEC's conference.
and I think the SEC is maybe weakening like a little bit over the last maybe 10 years or so, but the SEC is still probably the most dominant sports conference that there is in the United States.
Well, just look at it from like a bird's eye view. Say you're not even a college football fan. You don't even have to worry about recruiting, which the SEC absolutely dominates recruiting. You don't have to worry about draft picks, which the SEC absolutely dominates draft picks. Just look at the last how long has the college football playoff been in existence? 7 years. Look at the last 7 years of the college football playoff. There's been what three or four different SEC teams that have gotten into the college football playoff, and
there's
of those,
like every year there's been one SEC team in there,
and
or
and, and,
two.
and in a couple years there's been more than one. You know, with Georgia and Alabama, LSU got in last year and just destroyed every single team that they went up against. Alabama probably could have been in last year. I think they were a better team than OU was. But you know the SEC is head and shoulders above the rest of these conferences. And if A&M goes 8-1 in the SEC like they did, that deserves at least a little bit of recognition from the committee. In my opinion, that's much more impressive than a 10-1 season in the ACC against wins over Virginia and North Carolina.
Yeah, I think the power of the SEC kind of shows in the bowl games, because typically like you'll have teams like I don't know, Minnesota or something that are sometimes ranked like 22nd or like 18th or something like that, and they'll go up against like a Georgia or an Auburn. So, although ironically Minnesota beat Auburn a couple years ago in a bowl game, but typically what happens when you have teams like that and franchises like that go up against an SEC team, typically the SEC team beats them by like 2 or 3 touchdowns like every time.
Well, yeah, and to add to that point, even before the college football playoff was a thing, actually no, let's go for I've only really been following the SEC since A&M's been in the SEC. You know, I've kind of vaguely followed college football, but since A&M's been in the SEC, there has been I want to say, let's count them down. There's been Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Missouri, Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina. There's been at least 9 different SEC programs that have been in the top 10 since A&M's been in the conference, and there's no other conference in college football that can even come close to that.
Yeah, there's not. But I think we can leave off South Carolina. I think pretty much everybody in the SEC would rather see South Carolina go to the ACC than stay in the SEC. So.
No, I'm just referencing the fact that they were a top 10 team at a point in time when they had Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah. But we don't have to talk about them.
And back when they had Steve Spurrier as their head coach. But like, I'm just making a point of like how many good football teams are in the SEC, and how many good football programs are in the SEC, and how hard it is to stay a coach in the SEC. You know, Auburn fired their head coach Gus Malzahn for going. He had a positive record this year, you know, and he blew out LSU. When on the flip side, Mac Brown is getting praised and heralded as an amazing coach when he had 3 losses in the ACC. You know, like it's just 2 completely different conferences that expect 2 different things from their members.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well, A&M should have been in, but they're not. So cry about it, Jim.
Yeah, I will. I already did.
He did
earlier today. Yeah. I got all my crying out before this just so that I could vent to you guys.
I can imagine you finding the news and then coming home from lunch, driving back with your wife, and just saying, "This is outrageous. The system is corrupt. This is just blatant corruption in the college football playoffs."
I'm not really one for outbursts. I more bottle up my anger, and so
Yeah,
I was just sitting on the couch with my hood on, just sulking while my wife was doing a puzzle on the kitchen table. It's like, what's wrong? It's like, you wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand. And so, you know, it sucks because like A&M it's been so long since we've been like a relevant football team. We had Johnny. We had that one year in 2012 that was really cool. But outside of that, we haven't really been a very good football program to the expectations that we're given. And so this year we finally had a chance to be really, really good, and we were just kind of snubbed. So
Yeah. Is Kellen Mond a senior?
yeah, he's a senior. But this year, I think you know this, don't you, Liam? But this year that the scholarship, like expiration doesn't count. So like, if I'm a senior, I can come back for next year, and my play from last year doesn't count towards the clock or whatever of 4 years I get. I don't know what how you would call that, but like my scholarship, I still have a scholarship if I want to come back if I'm a senior this year.
Huh.
It doesn't matter if I'm a true senior without a red shirt, or if I'm a red shirt fifth. I could be there could be 6th-year seniors coming back if they wanted to.
Nice.
Which is crazy, but
might run it back, same teams. Maybe they'll make like 11th overall this time.
Yeah, and I'll say this: for all Kellen Mond is, he's an awesome quarterback. He's a really good quarterback, but I think that both parties, both A&M and Kellen, are ready for a change at that position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to the draft, and I think he's probably going to end up getting drafted, probably somewhere in the mid rounds. Like 3rd round or something like
that. You guys want to talk about Naruto?
Yeah, let's talk about Naruto. Let's transition
talk
from
that.
college football.
Let's talk about that, Liam.
From college football to Naruto.
What'd you say?
Me? Oh, I just said let's transition from college football to Naruto, two completely polar opposite topics.
The perfect transition.
Perfect.
If Ian Purcell is watching, he needs to skip from this point onward to a time that we would designate.
Are we doing spoilers?
Just close your ears, Ian.
Or just where up to you, I guess. Spoilers up to where you are, so we don't spoil it for you.
Yeah, just up to where I am. I'm at like, I think 125 in Shippuden or something. Basically, Sasuke has gathered his band of heroes, and he's going
motley
around.
Crew.
Yeah, he's going around searching for Itachi, his brother, so that he can slay him with righteous anger and fury.
Oh, I hate Itachi. I hate him. He's such a dastardly guy, isn't he, Liam?
Funny enough, Chandler, your Discord icon is actually Rock Lee that we're looking at right now.
Yeah. I'm not as much of a fan of Rock Lee as you are, but I like me some Rock Lee, some drunken fist or something like that.
Oh, speaking of drunken fist, I found out the other day. So, the Naruto that was on like TV is censored, right? I don't know if y'all know that. So the drunken fist episode he's not drunk. They give him an elixir that makes him stronger, and it's like not canon, and it makes no sense to the story at all, because it's like, if they just had an elixir to get stronger, why doesn't everybody just drink it all the time? But yeah, they did it to like censor it for like TV, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Does he still like loop around and stuff?
Yes, it's the exact same. It's just they don't call it like, I don't know, sake or whatever. They just call it an elixir.
Yeah, I feel like they call it. I'm watching it on Hulu, and like they say sake on there, and I feel like sake is like I don't think it's like I don't think sake and like beer are like the same thing.
No, it's like I would assume it's just like a hard alcohol, like you know what I mean? Just like a.
Like I've never had it, of course, but I've always thought that sake was more like I've heard it described as more like a I don't know. But it does not have the alcohol content that beer does. Right. I don't think. But I just actually about 2 hours ago, I just watched Deidre die. He blew himself up. I know that's not his name, but I always forget how to say his name.
Deidre.
Yeah, Deidre. He blew himself up in a final blaze of glory, trying to kill Sasuke. But I haven't seen the next episode, but I assume that Sasuke does not die because I've played Shinobi Striker and he still lives. So
okay, all right, Liam. Let's do a little bit of a let's test your enjoyment. Who is your favorite? Who's your favorite character so far, and why is that person your favorite character?
That's a good question.
Wait, I'm gonna add on to this. Has it changed from Naruto to Shippuden? your favorite character? Has that
That's a
had
good
any
question.
effect on it?
I think my answer unequivocally has to be Sakura. I think she's just the best character that there is. I don't think you could write a character better than Sakura, honestly. So
That's a good
there you
point.
go.
And
That's my
her
take.
character arc is, one of the best, with
Yeah,
how much power she's gained from like
when
the
she
start to the
heals that
finish.
fish, it gets me every time.
Isn't that the coolest thing? How like in the first 4 episodes of Shippuden, that Sakura like is this immense strength, but then so far like up until like 124 now, like she's not used it at all.
Oh, she fought Sorcery though. You saw
Who?
that. The puppet
Oh
guy. She
yeah,
killed
but
him. Well, to be fair, the old lady did
the
puppet or
old
use her body, so
yeah,
she didn't do
Sakura was
like
really just
90% of
a
the fight.
Sakura honestly was just a meat shield. She didn't really do anything.
That's
She
true.
just stood in front of the old lady while the old lady killed the guy.
That's true.
Yeah.
But my favorite character that is I always really enjoy when Rock Lee enters the scene. But I think more and more, I think Kakashi is just probably my favorite character because he's a very that may be very bland, but he's very he's very strong, and I don't mean that as like he's a good fighter, but he's like a
He's
strong,
strong.
but he's strong in character. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just watched the episode or the couple episodes that's called Kakashi Chronicles, where
Mhm.
he's growing up with Obito and Rin. I'd never seen Rin before, but he's like you can kind of see the growth from when he was a kid to now,
Mhm.
and it made me think about all the times where he had to like subdue Naruto or Sasuke from doing something that would be harmful or be very rash, which
Mhm.
is exactly what I don't know his name, but the fourth Hokage did when he was his sensei. So
Mhm.
I just think that Kakashi is a very well written character, and I assume that there's a lot more to come because I don't know a lot about his father, but his father is like a tremendous figure apparently.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I'm very excited to learn more about Kakashi. I think so. That's probably my favorite character.
Yeah, when I was little, he was my favorite. I always thought he was cool.
Yeah, how does that
Yeah,
feel, Liam? You have the same opinion as baby Ethan.
Yeah, baby Ethan's favorite character was Kakashi, so it's
well, I
not
mean,
anymore. I still think he's cool, but he's definitely not my favorite character now, but I
all
do
I
think
can
he's
say
very
is
cool.
that baby Ethan has really good opinions. So I don't know.
He has better opinions than grown up Ethan,
Well, so far,
according to Liam.
so far. But yeah, I probably could. I will say this: Naruto, I don't think is the best show that I've ever watched. Um, as far as like everything that I've seen so far, like
Yeah.
it might get a lot better and become like a 9 out of 10. But so far for me, it's like a 7.8 out of 10, kind of like it's high up there, but it's not like I can't drop it. Like I feel like I can't drop it. There are a lot of like 7 out of 10 shows that I just drop because I don't feel like investing any more
Mhm.
time into it. But I guess because it's so long and I've already spent so much time
You
on
just
it,
have to finish it now.
I'll
I just
say
have to keep going.
I'll say
But I am
this.
enjoying it. It's not like I'm not enjoying it. I am enjoying it, but it's not like I'm actively like this isn't the best thing I've ever seen, but it's still
Yeah.
pretty good. A lot of the animations are really good.
I'll say this, the arc that you're in is really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Just as a story building type of thing.
It's the first time I've seen Sasuke like have actual like meaningful dialogue in like
Yeah.
150
Meaningful
episodes. So
emotion, then not just
yeah.
anger.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of emotional. Like he doesn't have any emotion right now. He just like
That,
he's
yeah.
literally just like I want to kill Itachi. I want to kill my
Yeah.
brother because he killed my family. Well,
Mhm.
and the thing is too is so far I don't think he's figured out who Obito is, but I know just because I played the stupid game, which I
Yeah,
probably shouldn't have
way to
played.
spoil the biggest like twist in all of Naruto.
Well, because I played the stupid game, I shouldn't have played the game.
You should have just played
Yeah.
it without looking.
Yeah, just
play,
play it
play,
blindfold, dude.
play it with no headphones and closing my eyes.
Just
Yeah.
put like a Dragon Ball skin on it, and then you'll be good.
Replace Obito's name with like Bulma or like
Yeah,
Vegeta or something like that.
perfect.
Yeah, that'd be good. But I'm liking it so far. It's good. It's going well.
Let's move
What?
on to
Okay.
all of our favorite topics,
Oh, sweet.
which would be the NBA season, which starts very
Ooh,
soon.
it does. The last of the preseason games have been played, right? Am I correct
Yeah.
on that?
I think yesterday they were finished. So
Yeah.
now it's Tuesday. It begins.
So let's hop into that because I think that's gonna be probably my favorite topic that we cover because this is gonna be such a weird year just because of how short the off season was and
Mm-hmm.
how I would say like this feels like one of those years where there haven't been a whole lot of moves, in the off season that have
Yeah.
really changed the way like the
It's just
landscape.
been like role players getting
Yeah.
different
But
contracts
then
and stuff.
but then like that whole thing could flip on his head the second Woj tweets out that James Harden was traded to somebody.
Yeah.
It could. I I seriously doubt that James Harden actually gets traded before Tuesday. If he gets traded, it'll be mid-season, and it'll be not what the Rockets would want. So I think that they keep him on for this year. I don't think he gets traded at all. Honestly.
I think it would be
think
best
I think
if
he's too big of a piece to move. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that there's anything that you could get back
It's like
for him
trading
that would
LeBron.
yeah, there would be nothing that you could get back for James Harden that would uh like be 2/3 as good as what you would have with him.
Well,
Now
yeah.
that being said, I don't like James Harden as a person. I've nothing wrong with his game, but he's just a very I don't know. I don't like. I think he has a very bad attitude about what it means to be a professional athlete.
I'll make sure to let the Rockets front office know that your morality does not line up with James Harden morality, so he really
Since
needs to
you're-
get out of Houston.
Yeah, since you're a Rockets fan now, you have to let him know, Liam.
Yeah, I guess I have to clarify. I am over the last couple weeks. I am now a Rockets fan because my favorite player, John Wall, got traded to the Rockets and has played very well, by the way. Might I add? So, and I think I think he'll be a a much better fit than Russell Westbrook was for the Rockets.
I think
Specifically because of John Wall's catch and shoot percentages, like his catch and shoot from three, I think is like 40%. Whereas because he's never been able to play off of anybody, he's always had to create his own shot. But his catch and shoot threes are like in the low 40s, which is really good. Whereas Russell Westbrook is like I think still 32.
I don't
Well,
think he
I
took a
think-
catch and
I
shoot
think-
three.
I think the floor, I guess, of John Wall is much higher than it was with Russell Westbrook because of how erratic Russell Westbrook's play was. I mean, you even saw it in the
Yeah.
playoffs. Like
Yeah.
he'll have some some games where he looks like MVP Russ, and and I mean, and a lot of the majority of the last half of that season, he was, MVP level Russ. He's putting up 28 points a game with 8 assists and shooting a high percentage, like 68% or something ridiculous from the paint. But then he gets into the playoffs and he has games where he has like 8 turnovers, 10 turnovers, and he shoots like 15% from 3. And just
Yeah.
how erratic his play is. I don't think the
Yeah.
highs are going to be quite as high with John Wall, but I think the lows will be much higher than they were with Russ. And so for that, if I'm James Harden, I'm saying I will give this a shot for at least a month and see how it works before I really put my foot on the gas and demand a trade out of Houston. If I'm James Harden, but who knows how that situation's going. But from what I've heard, the Rockets front office really wants to, it's more of a mutual thing. They want to get rid of James Harden as much as James Harden wants out because they see him as a negative to the culture. At least that's what I've heard. So I have no inside
would totally
information or
agree
anything
with
like that.
I would
They just-
absolutely agree with that.
They blame him for the toxic culture that the Rockets have had over the past half a decade or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely some merit to it because it's not it's not like it's it's not a coincidence that both Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul, who in my opinion are very 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 good point guards, performed much better.
In your opinion?
Well,
It-
you can make an argument that maybe CP3 is not what he used to be, and Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook, you can make the argument that he's not as good a point guard now as he was with the Thunder. There was people. I mean, it was really hard for the Rockets to move Russell Westbrook's contract. That's how low his value is right now, and so it's not a coincidence that both of those guys' value was significantly lower. The second that the Rockets were trying to get rid of him than it is probably right now, and definitely was before they got onto the Rockets. And so it's the same thing with Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard lost a lot of value on the Rockets, and I don't think it's a coincidence that now he's playing much better than he was pretty much ever with the Rockets. So, um, as much as
Yeah,
I am a Rockets fan, it's just frustrating to see the way that it's going.
yeah. I think, like you talked about, I think John Wall's a much more controlled player, and he doesn't try to force the issue if something's not going right. Like there are a lot of times, especially in the last 2 or 3 playoff series that Russ has been in, where he will come down on the left side of the court and take a jump shot in the mid range. And if that doesn't work, then when they get the ball back next time, he does the exact same thing, and then the same thing, and then the same thing, and he'll just do that. And then the next change he'll make is, okay, well, I'll still go on the left side of the floor, but then I'll post up and take a fadeaway jumper. And if that doesn't work, then I'll do it again, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. So
Yeah.
he literally just bangs his head against the wall on offense so much. But John Wall is not like that. John Wall, if he only takes 9, 8, 10 shots a game, he's cool. He'd rather. I think John Wall would much rather have uh, like 15 assists than 40 points,
Yeah.
which I think is much more helpful for a guy like James Harden.
Speaking of
where
15 assists, can we talk about LaMelo Ball?
Yes.
Dude, what in the world? Did you see that pass yesterday? That freaking cockback half sling pass that he did between the defense on a fast break to Malik Monk?
Dude, yeah.
he's actually insane. He's got to be rookie of the year, right?
Well, his
I mean, there's no way.
passing.
I think
I
so.
don't think I've seen a rookie with his passing ability.
Really only Lonzo, and like not
Yeah.
even to the extent that LaMelo.
Also, he's shooting better from 3 than he was in Australia, which is pretty cool. Then during the, I mean, I guess it's still the preseason, but it was something stupid, like horrible, like 20% from 3 or something like that when he was in Australia. It was really bad.
He's getting mostly catch and shoot shots from like
Yeah,
the
he's
corner,
get-
which is
Yeah,
really
that
good.
was what I was gonna say. It's a lot easier to shoot a high percentage when you're shooting catch and shoot than it is like he was when he was in
correct.
wherever the
But that
heck.
helps to build confidence in your shot.
Mhm.
Like the more that you can hit those catch and shoots, the more you think, okay, maybe next time I can come off of a pick
Yeah.
and take one at the top of the key or like closer to the wing.
He's also, I think he plays very similar to Lonzo, but he's also like confident in scoring. Like he'll actually like do stuff on the offense instead of like Lonzo. Like he'll just get pushed and then he like gives up and then he just like throws the ball away.
Yeah,
Well,
A lot of
it was
times.
it was interesting the comparisons that Lonzo got to Magic Johnson coming out of the draft, because I feel like LaMelo is a much closer representation of what Magic Johnson was for the Lakers than Lonzo
absolutely.
ever was, because Lonzo really prides himself on, he's a very good passer, but he's a much better defender than he is a passer. But he's a much better defensive player than he is on offense at all. And that's not saying he's a bad offensive player, but LaMelo, on the other hand, he's not as good defensively as Lonzo is, and he probably never will be. But dude, the ceiling on that guy's passing ability is absolutely it's through the roof.
Yeah.
Which is
I think the connection that he's going to have over the next few years with Miles Bridges is going to be insane.
Yeah,
I,
I'm just excited because the Charlotte Hornets have finally made a good draft selection for the once in the history of that absolutely
I feel like that
garbage
was
franchise.
their only draft selection that they should have made, and they didn't mess it up, so that's good.
No, and I'm just really excited because I have a friend who's from Charlotte, who I interned with, who's a very big Charlotte Hornets fan. I mean, he's more just like a Charlotte sports fan, but he's a really big Charlotte Hornets fan, and we were talking about how frustrating it must be to constantly have high draft picks and never be excited about the guy that you're selecting.
Yeah.
Like at least when like the I don't know, someone like the Magic or someone like that, when they picked Mo Bamba, you're at least excited to watch guys like that, or DeAndre Ayton with the Suns. You were excited to watch guys like that. Where like when they picked Devonte Graham, I was like, I'm not even excited to watch Devonte Graham. Or when they picked even Kemba Walker to an extent, I wasn't even really that excited to watch Kemba Walker. I like Kemba Walker, especially when he was with UConn, or I think he was with the UConn or something like that. And he's much better now than I ever thought he would be in the NBA. But it's just it must be such a sad existence for Charlotte Hornets fans prior to this year. Like I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah.
Or like Frank Kaminsky, dude. Have you ever seen an NBA player with as little skill as Frank Kaminsky, dude? What is that?
Oh man.
Not saying I would be any better than Frank Kaminsky, but like, come on, bro. Like,
relative,
was he deserving of a first round draft
Frank
pick?
the Tank. Yeah, Frank the Tank is killing it in Phoenix right now. Probably not actually.
Yeah, but
I will say this. I like Devonte Graham a lot.
yeah,
I think he's a good player, and in fact, I think his jump from his rookie season to his sophomore season was insane. He went from 4 points to 4 points and like I think like 1 or 2 assists to like 18 points and 6 assists, which is insane.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to say that Devonte Graham is a good player. I was just saying like how much hype is around these specific rookies, because it feels like in Charlotte, you like I want to get a hyped guy. Like I want to have a Zion Williamson or an even though RJ Barrett hasn't really panned out, but like a guy like RJ Barrett was like, I want to watch this guy play. But Charlotte doesn't ever get those guys because they're always bad, but they're never bad enough to get the first pick.
Yeah, like I was saying, like I like Devonte Graham. I think that he's an excellent player. I like Malik Monk. I think he's a pretty good player. But the thing that Charlotte needed the most was marketability. Like until this point, they've had nobody to market to fans. There's been nobody that like you were talking about that you've actually wanted to go see play. Like you don't want to go see Bismack Biyombo block a shot. I mean, that's cool, like a highlight. Or you don't want to see like Cody Zeller like get a lob. Like that's not what you go to see. You go to see stuff like LaMelo, who's doing behind the back passes.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like listen to this. I just pulled up their draft picks. You want to hear the last? I'm just gonna list off the first round draft picks that Charlotte's made since 2005. Raymond Felton, Adam Morrison, DJ Augustine, Gerald Henderson.
Raymond, you could stop at Raymond Felton.
They got a very good pick with Kemba Walker at the 9th. They had Cody Zeller, Frank Kaminsky, Noah Vonleh, Shabazz Napier, Malachi Richardson, Malik Monk, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was probably the best draft pick they've made since LaMelo Ball, and they traded him to the Clippers. PJ Washington, and then now LaMelo Ball. And so it's been like a 20 plus, a 15-year stretch of just absolutely awful. Oh, I forgot to add Sean May, Brendan Wright, Jared Dudley, Alexis Ajitza.
Ooh,
like there's some. Oh, and they also, guess who else they picked, and they proceeded to trade Tobias Harris. Also let's not throw out the number 2 overall pick from 2012, Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Dude, they have made some absolutely abysmal picks, and it's finally refreshing to see them make one where you can look and you're like, all right, that was the right pick.
It is.
So I'm happy. I'm happy for my Charlotte boys. And I could not be happier to watch LaMelo Ball.
All 4 of you Charlotte Hornets fans out there, we're proud of you. We're very happy and excited for you for the upcoming season.
Oh, so you were talking about like you wanted like a player that was exciting to watch, that was like popular like before like going into the league or whatever. I decided to look up how many followers the Hornets had on Instagram, and it's only 1 million, and I think LaMelo has like 6 million or something like that.
Well, I'm pretty sure they hit 1 million like very recently. Like it was under 1 million before LaMelo Ball, and I want to say it very well could have been well under 1 million. It could have been in the 800,000s. Like LaMelo having 2 really good games for the preseason really boosted their popularity among NBA fans.
For sure.
And so, and it's not like the Charlotte Hornets are the only team that has made bad draft selections, but dude, like if I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan, I'm just thanking whatever mind was the guy that decided to draft LaMelo Ball in that front office, because Lord knows Michael Jordan has no clue what he's doing drafting those
Michael
guys.
Jordan probably wanted Tyrese Halliburton on us.
he probably honestly, he probably did. He probably wanted to probably wanted to trade back
because of his beef with Lamelo's dad. He's like, I'm not drafting a lot. I'm not drafting a ball kid.
I mean, speaking of other rookies that have had good games, did you guys watch Cole Anthony hit that game winner against, ironically, the Charlotte Hornets? But
I did. I don't think I saw him hit the game winner, but I've seen a couple highlights of him. He's number 50, which is so lame. Why did he do that?
Also, the Rockets could have had him if they didn't trade away their pick for more cap space. The Rockets very easily could have drafted Cole Anthony. He fell well into the first round. Like, it was pretty late in the first round.
What do you think of Chris Clemens, Chandler? Backup point guard for Rockets.
No offense, Chris Clemens. I don't think you're good enough to be a backup point guard in the NBA. You're my height, which should be the end of this discussion. But also, what adds to the fact is that they got a 5'5" guy running around chucking threes when we got rid of Isaiah Hartenstein, who would have been at least at the very least a backup center. He probably could have been our starting center this year. Like, we got rid of that guy to sign freaking Chris Clemens, who is my height. Like, why? But
that dude should be playing soccer somewhere, honestly.
Yeah, he would be a really good soccer player, probably. Honestly, and it's not like he's a bad basketball player. It's just that
he's not. But his biggest ability is chucking threes from the parking lot and sometimes hitting them. I don't think he's a good. I don't think he's like a tremendous playmaker or anything like that at all. And he's definitely not a good defender because of his build.
Yeah.
So, did you guys see Emmanuel Quickly in the preseason?
No, I didn't get to see him.
His most recent game for the Knicks was insane. He went 22, 5 and 5.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he had like he hit like I think 3 or 4 threes or something like that, and he was creating his own shots. I forget what pick Emmanuel Quickly was, but I think he's gonna end up being the steal of the draft probably. That guy looks good. You can watch a guy like hit some corner threes, like catch and shoot or whatever, and be like, okay, but when you see a guy creating his own shots and creating baskets for other people, that's a problem. Like he's going to end up being really good, I think.
Well,
but whether or not the Knicks are smart enough to keep him in a couple of years, I don't know.
I'm interested to see this rookie class because it was a weird year and they didn't get to play all the games or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks with these guys.
And then what's his name? The guy that was taken first by his name is eluding me
Anthony Edwards.
Edwards.
He's had an underwhelming preseason.
That's what I was about to say. He's had some pretty meh games, and then some other guys like Cole Anthony who fell in the draft, and then even I haven't got to really watch him. I've just kind of followed on Twitter, but I've seen a lot of positive tweets about Obi Toppin, some other guys that fell in the draft.
He's played well too. I've seen a couple of his games,
and so it's just interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see whose evaluations were right, because I mean that's pretty much all you were going off of. It wasn't a year where you really got a full slate to watch all these guys.
And you couldn't really see anybody in like very clutch moments because there was no March Madness. There was no like big tournament.
Yep.
Where guys had to step up and make shots. So there's a lot of question marks. I think I don't really know why Cole Anthony was taken so low in the draft, because I think he has all the tools to become like a good player right now. So it's going to be interesting to see why he's also low.
The reason why he was taken so low, from my understanding, was he had a pretty underwhelming year at North Carolina, where he shot, not very good percentages, but also keep in mind their team was awful. Like, they had no other good players, from what I understand. So it was pretty much just him out there chucking, which sometimes can result in really high stats and really good high draft pick, but other times can result in underwhelming stats where you're having to shoot a lot of bad shots. So
I think it's going to be a fun year to watch, I think.
Yeah, and so I'm just very curious to see. I'm also interested in seeing James Wiseman for Golden State. That should be an interesting one to watch. And then some of the other guys that were, Isaac Okoro, your boy.
Hey, yo, he had a game winner the other day. Did you see that?
Yeah, and so I'm just anxious to see some of these guys perform because it's gonna be interesting too because there's some dudes that fell pretty far. Like I want to say Tyrese Maxey fell fairly far, um, and then Denny Avdija. I want to see what he looks like for the Wizards. I'm just curious to see um, how they fare, especially since this year is going to be on a shortened off season, so they don't have a whole lot of time to prepare with their actual team before they actually go out and play. Which I
Yeah,
don't think is a big of a deal in the NBA as it would be in another sport, but
probably not. I think from the time that they've had off, like from February until now, I think they've probably had enough time to train and talk to people who are inside the league and get to know and understand like what's going to be expected of them. So
Yeah,
I,
Zion
I, I
lost 25 pounds or something like that before, apparently.
who?
Zion Williamson apparently lost 25 pounds before like before into the preseason. I guess,
No,
but that's since he's been injured though.
so he's
That's
finally hit 400 pounds.
no, he lost 20.
He's
Oh yeah,
400.
exactly.
He's 400 now.
Yeah, he's 400 now.
He was like 430. No, that's not
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
But I think that's good. I think that might have been the biggest knock to him is that he was just so big. But it's also his biggest strength. But it would help him to lose some weight so that he doesn't get injured so bad.
For sure,
Um,
for sure.
well,
but
let's do our predictions. You want to do that?
sure,
Who you think's gonna end up where?
I predict John Wall wins Finals MVP, averages 40 points, 19 rebounds, and 27 assists. James Harden averages zero everything. Um,
Does he
that's
get
what.
injured, or does he just can't play anymore?
No,
He
he
just
just sucks. He just ends
okay,
up sucking really bad.
okay.
Yeah, and I would actually, ironically, you mentioned that I would love if the Rockets went to the finals and John Wall won Finals MVP, but I don't see that happening in any realistic
I don't
scenario.
Yeah,
either.
Um,
I don't. But seriously, I don't. Here's the thing with me. I don't think that the Clippers, from what I saw with them last year, I don't think that they're a real threat anymore.
well,
Like
Mm-mm.
they've gotten worse technically, haven't they? Because they lost Montrez, they
they
lost.
they lost Montrezl and replaced him with Serge Ibaka. And Serge Ibaka's nice, but he's not the defender he once was. He's not the jump shooter he once was.
He is pretty good in the
So
playoffs, though. Gotta give him that.
he's good. Yeah, he's a good veteran to have in the playoffs, and he'll be able to help his teammates maybe do better. Except for Paul George. Paul George will continue to shoot 27% from the floor.
Yeah, but
Well,
to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not out of the realm of possibility for the Clippers to be an elite team this year. But from what I saw
it's
last
not,
year,
but I think if last year's or a couple months ago is any indication, I just think that it's very easy for them to fall apart. Um, so
yeah,
we'll see if that had anything or not anything, but we'll see if that had a lot to do with Doc Rivers being the coach, or if it's really just Paul George and Kawhi not coming up clutch when they need to be. Um, but right now for me, I think the Rockets and the Lakers are probably my two favorites for the West.
okay.
I'd
So
definitely say
what's your East? So you think Rockets and Lakers in West Conference Finals, and then your Eastern Conference Finals would be who?
Um, I guess the Nets, but the Nets are tentative. The Nets would be tentative upon if James Harden actually found himself there. But because I just don't. I've said this before. I don't really see how a James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant team works and
works.
synergizes together. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's just them out there for the first half of the first quarter. And then who do they put out there? Jared Allen? That's about it. Because they'd have to give up probably Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and a bunch of picks to get to the Rockets. But
Yeah.
anyway, but barring James Harden getting there, I think the Nets are obviously probably going to be the number one seed in the East. And then you've got uh, the Celtics are always going to be a favorite. I think Jason Tatum's going to make a big jump. Maybe Jalen Brown makes a big jump. Celtics, we'll see what happens with the Sixers. I think that they got worse. I think their bench got worse. They added a lot more or a couple more forwards when they really needed like another backup point guard. So we'll see what happens with them, but it's probably going to be the Nets and the Celtics is what I think in the East.
And so, who do you think going to the finals?
Probably the Nets. I think Kevin Durant just has too much finals experience, and so does Kyrie.
Okay. And then
I think that they make it there.
Out of the West, you think Lakers or
probably probably the Lakers. I don't think that they got worse with their losing Rajon Rondo and losing Dwight Howard was big because Dwight Howard and Rajon Rondo played really, really, really well for them in the playoffs. But I think that with the emergence of Talen Horton-Tucker, he looks pretty good. I think he'll fill some of that role, and I think Anthony Davis is a pretty surefire MVP candidate. Maybe he will probably win MVP this year if Luka Doncic doesn't. So I think the Lakers probably come out of the West. And who wins between the Nets and the Lakers? I have no clue.
You have to make a prediction though.
Okay, then I predict. I'll predict the Nets just because I think that they may be constructed a little bit better, and they have just probably a similar style of offense. So
okay,
I think it just comes out to their personnel.
Yeah, I'm tied between the Nets and the Celtics. I think it's going to be them. I don't know which one though. I kind of feel in the Celtics because I feel like you said, Jason Tatum. I feel like you were pretty correct about him making a big push, and I think they have a better like chemistry and like team comp going in.
I think Tatum is tired of losing in these conference finals.
Yes. So I think that'll play a big part.
Yeah.
But I do feel I don't see any team go into the Western Conference Finals that's not the Lakers. I don't think any teams is gonna. As much as I would like to see another team like the Rockets, I don't see that happening at all. So I'm pretty sure the Lakers are gonna win the championship. I would say. But I
all right. So my prediction is I think the East is going to be the Bucks and the Celtics.
Okay.
And I think the Celtics end up getting to the finals this year because I think that their youth has what's held them back the past 3 years, and I think that youth is finally coming to their own, which you saw, Jason Tatum really take a step in the playoffs. Yeah. And then, Jalen Brown and all those guys. And I think if Kemba Walker would have just played average basketball, they probably would have gotten out of the East last year.
Yeah.
So I feel fairly confident in saying that the Celtics get to the finals this year. And then out of the West, I think the West is about as a toss-up as you can have outside of the Lakers. I think the Lakers probably get into the Western Conference Finals, and then for the other team, taking a bit of a shot in the dark here, but I'm down to either the Nuggets or the Mavs.
Okay.
I'm really high on both of those teams.
Yeah.
I think very similar to the Celtics, what was holding them back was their youth. And the Nuggets really impressed me later in that season because not necessarily because they were a dominant team. They really didn't dominate any of those series that they won because they came back from 3-1 in both of them. But it impressed me the resilience and then also the talent on that team is getting better. I think Michael Porter Jr. is going to take a big step this year and end up being a very, very important piece for that team. And then
you think it won Most Improved?
I think it's possible. I don't really know. It's hard for me to say. But I think he's definitely a candidate. If he's one of those guys that I can see. I see him making a big step this year, and so if he takes that step, that I think he would definitely be in that consideration. But yeah, I think it's probably probably mean Nuggets, Lakers again, which is boring because that was what it was last year. But and then I think the Lakers probably end up getting to the finals, and then probably end up beating the Celtics for their second straight
I
championship.
think the Lakers and Celtics would be kind of cool in the finals to see that again.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Or just because of cool old school vibe.
Yeah, and it's just weird, I guess. How how those like how do the Lakers and the Celtics consistently, I guess, signing big free agents, but they're like the opposite of the Hornets. They always make good draft selections. Well, no, I shouldn't say the Lakers do, but they have a fairly good track record of making at least above average draft selections for a majority of their life, and then they always sign big free agents, which is so frustrating because the Rockets never do.
Well, it has to do with pedigree, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got the Celtics that have won, I think, 17 uh, NBA. Well, I don't know if NBA championships, but NBA and ABA championships combined before the merger in the 70s. And then the Lakers have gotten, I think they have 17 now too.
They
so
have
they're
17, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So if they meet in the finals, that's a tiebreaker this year. But I think it just has to do with their really long history. Like those are the two oldest teams in basketball.
Yeah. Let's do all of our picks for MVP, and let's call it a wrap because we're already at an hour and a half. Well, almost an hour and 20 minutes. So I'll let you go first, Liam or Ethan, whichever one.
Okay, I'll go first. I think Luka Doncic is going to win MVP this season. I think that there's no way that he comes off of the playoff experience that he just had against the Clippers, where he was just literally single-handedly carrying his team and willing his team to try to beat them. Of course, they lost in 6 games was because Kristaps Porzingis hardly played at all. So I think with a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, I think Luka Doncic can average 2 points a game with 11 rebounds and probably somewhere near 10 assists. So I think Luka Doncic is probably the favorite to win it, and that's who I would pick as well.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ethan?
I don't know. I'm thinking Luka's definitely a good pick. I'm just gonna say Giannis just because I think that'd be kind of cool. Well, I guess it wouldn't be that cool because he's winning again.
I was about to say.
But if 2K taught me anything, which he's gonna win it for the next like 5 years in a row, so I think that's you should bet on that.
Yeah. I this is so hard because it's like my gut tells me Luka, but it's just so hard for it. I already made the prediction that the Nuggets and the Lakers are going to make the Western Conference Finals, so I just don't feel like the Mavs are going to have enough wins for Luka to win it. But
well, I mean, you got to think about Russ's MVP year.
But he averaged a triple double. Like,
well, right, but Luka Doncic probably will too. I mean, or pretty well near that.
But the narrative around Russ was that he finally got to play angry without KD, and so that like the media narrative is kind of what drove that. Like, if we're being honest here, James Harden had a significantly better year than Russ that year, and he didn't win the MVP. And his team also had more wins. So I think the media narrative thing is so hard to guess, but I think I'm gonna say, I think I'm gonna go. This is so lame, but I think I'm gonna go LeBron because I think after this year, everyone's gonna be like, oh, he's gonna take a step down because, it's LeBron and he's like almost 500 years old.
Yeah.
But I just think, and also he's been so close the past few years. I think LeBron's probably going to end up getting it. But I don't know. It's so hard to tell because he doesn't.
I feel like he would.
He doesn't really
do less to win MVP. If you get what I'm saying, I'm not trying to cut you off, but like just because like you say you'd be taking a step down, that like doesn't really have to like I guess prove anything. So like if him like having a good season could just.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like he hasn't really put up like the numbers that you're used to seeing out of LeBron in the regular season his past few years, but his playoff LeBron is like better than any playoff LeBron ever. And so I think this year the media is probably like going on the bandwagon of like LeBron's challenging for that greatest of all time, you know, title. He's pushing MJ for the greatest of all time, and they're going to win a back-to-back championships with the Lakers. And LeBron, the LeBron media narrative is just going to be too hard to overcome.
I think isn't LeBron's birthday opening day? Isn't it? No, it's December 30th. My bad. But anyway, LeBron's birthday is coming up, and he'll be 36.
Yeah, which is
which is
crazy.
Yeah, nobody has ever been this good in their 30s.
Yeah, so I think that media narrative might end up doing something, and obviously LeBron has to put up crazy numbers, which everyone knows is possible, but does he want to put in the effort to put up crazy numbers in the regular season? Is the question.
Yeah, I think my thing with LeBron is that I think like a lot of guys who've been around as long as he has, I think that they don't care about the regular season very much anymore, but they want to conserve as much as possible for the playoffs. And so we'll probably see a lot of load management from LeBron, as well as guys like probably Chris Paul, who, with the Suns are probably going to try to crack like the 7th or 8th seed in the West. Just like a lot of these older guys who are just trying to win, they will probably just conserve as much as possible, and that's probably what LeBron. Is it 72 games this season or something like that?
Yeah, 72.
72. He'll probably take off probably like 15 games this season, is what I think. But
yeah,
anyway.
Well, let's end it there. Good first podcast, and thank you to anyone watching for sitting through an hour and a half of us rambling on.
I think it got better. We might have been rocky starting, but I think we got through pretty okay.